Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's post-conference webinar, CX Alloy New Features and 2023 Roadmap by CX Alloy, a BCA conference exhibitor. My name is Maria Augustine, and I will be the moderator for today's session. Please note that throughout the presentation, all phone lines will be muted. This will minimize any background noise or feedback that could distract from the presentation. We will be gathering your questions throughout the presentation, and we will send them directly to the speaker to follow up with you. We'll also be recording the presentation and it will be available for viewing on BCA's YouTube channel in a few days. Today's presenter is Jacob Terry, and for nearly 15 years, Jacob has been designing and developing CX Alloy commissioning software. A self-taught programmer, he has a BA in print journalism and an MBA from the Georgia Institute of Technology. Welcome, Jacob, and I will now turn over the controls to you.
Wonderful, thank you. Hi, I'm Jacob Terry. I'm going to go ahead and expose the lie about my photo here and just turn my video on for a moment. Hello, I'm Jacob Terry. I can look like that a little bit, but as many people with the pandemic, I've let myself go a little wild. Glad to be with you all today. We only have 30 minutes, so I'm going to do it's going to be a pretty quick sort of time that we have together, and I'm going to move through a lot of things pretty rapidly, but hopefully give you a good sense of some of the unique features that CX Alloy offers, and in particular the ones that we have rolled out here in 2022, as well as a preview of some of what's going to be coming here in 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and dive into showing you some of this information here. So we had two major features. We had a lot of other features. I went through and took a look at all the different features we'd released over 2022, and there was north of 100 independent releases. Some of those very small, of course, bug fixes and so forth. But well over 40 user-facing functionality changes and enhancements and so forth. But there were two really significant ones that we developed and rolled out last year. One is the addition of issue attributes, and the other is our enhancement of our checklists and tests to embrace this concept of line types. And those are the two that I'll be talking about today. I'm going to start with issue attributes. And this was a major upgrade to the functionality that is available within CX Alloy. What issue attributes allow you to do is attach any sort of arbitrary custom data to the issues that you create within CX Alloy. So they're custom fields, essentially, that are available to be added to your issues. And it's all within your control about what those custom fields are, what those actual issue attributes that are available are, and then how you want to use them on which issues and how you want to deploy them. And I think for this particular one, the easiest way to demonstrate this feature or to talk about it is to demonstrate it. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over here into CX Alloy. Now I've got a small sample project here that I'm using for the demonstration today. And what I'd like to show is how you actually would use these issue attributes as part of creating issues in the system. So first of all, I mentioned a moment ago, you can customize the issue attributes. So the actual list of what's available is definable over in the project settings. It can also be defined at the overall account level as sort of a general template that all of your projects use. So you have that control to set up, what those are and what the default set is. Once you have those defined, when you go to create an issue, and some of you may be current CX Alloy users and may know that sort of what the addition here is this button here, add issue attribute, is the new piece that we added in September to make this all possible. So let's say I have an issue where we've got a damper that isn't behaving as appropriate, isn't following the BAS commands, resulting in unnecessary running time, right? Something like that. You have your issue, whatever it is, and you go, you know what? This is an issue that should really be flagged as something that could have an energy savings component to it. Previously, if that was the case, it would be maybe a little challenging about how to capture that in an effective way that you could report on later and so forth. With the issue attributes, what we can do now is we can actually select that attribute that we've defined, energy savings impact, and add that as a piece of information to this issue. And maybe we've decided among our team that we're going to use a 1 to 5 scale for that energy savings impact. So I'm going to put a 3 in there. Another thing that we see sometimes is people want to do post-project analysis about what was the origin of these issues, right? And the root cause analysis, and use that as the lessons learned moving forward. So another great use case for issue attributes. I have a root cause one here. I'll go ahead and put in BAS, and there we go. Now, when I go and save this issue, it gets added right here. I've got my 2 additional attributes that come along and are part of that issue now. These are going to show up not only here, of course, but they're going to show up in the PDF reports that I generate. If I export this list of issues, they're going to show up there. We've also incorporated the attributes into the import itself. So you can import issues into your reports, and those file, when you import a spreadsheet of issues, they can include any of these attributes that you'd like. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, that's nice, but I don't know if I want to have to select those issue attributes every single time that I need to create an issue, right? If I want all my issues to track a root cause, I'd really like to not have to, select it over and over again. And that's why we also introduced, at the same time that we introduced attributes, we introduced issue presets. And in this case, I'll go over to the issue project settings and show you this. So I can go in and I can create issue presets, which are a predefined configuration of an issue that I can then quickly select when creating an issue, and it auto fills out the appropriate fields for me. So I'm going to go ahead and say, standard electrical issue. As an example, my electrical issues, I normally bring them in, let's say, as moderate priority. Obviously, they're going to be electrical discipline, and I'm going to have a default assignment of these to the electrical contractor. And then I also am going to say, I want this issue also to have a root cause as something that needs to be specified. So you can add attributes, the issue attributes, to the presets and have those be part of that definition. You can have it just be present and then requiring the person entering the issue to fill out that value, or you can pre-fill it with an initial value, right? So for example, if you wanted to set the energy savings impact as something that you always wanted there, but just with a default value of 1, right? You could do that. So we'll create that preset. And then what that now allows us to do is when we go to create an issue, rather than having to add all those different attributes, and it might be more than just the 2 I'm demoing today. You might have 8 or 10 or some large number that you're interested in tracking for your issues. I can instead just pick that preset, and it's going to automatically fill out any of these fields over here that I specified, but also, as you notice down here, drop in those attributes and again pre-fill them, like with the energy savings impact, if that's something that you set up in that preset. This is here on the web, but also on our iOS app. We have a fantastic offline iOS app, runs on iPhone and iPad, and this is all incorporated in there as well, both the issue attributes and the issue presets, allowing you that fast entry there on that mobile device. I want to just take a minute and point out something. People are often interested in, what's different about CX Alloy? There's other products out there that I might use. Why should I go with CX Alloy? And, we have some wonderful features, absolutely. But it's more than just the features themselves. It's really about the fact that when we build these features out, we try to think about, and we use it quite a bit ourselves, and then we are in constant contact with our customers and our users about how they're using it, is what's going to eliminate the pain, what's going to get the job done, but without adding additional complexity, without adding a bunch of extra clicks, without adding all this extra overhead to get to the end goal. So the issue presets is a great example where our customers were telling us they wanted these issue attributes. They wanted these custom fields to be able to attach to issues. And we said, great, well, and it made a lot of sense to us. We're going to do that. But then as we were looking at the actual experience of doing it, we realized, it's no fun to click these buttons over and over again. And so we said, we need to come up with a solution that really makes it clean and fast and easy to leverage these in an effective way. And that led us to building out the issue presets. And it's not just that, it's also that we've ingrained this feature throughout the entire application, right? So I already mentioned the exports are going to include that information. The reports, PDF reports, of course, are going to include it. We have an API. Day and date when this feature came out on the web and in the app also was available via our API to grab this information. And we knew for this to really be useful, you needed to be able to report on it as well. So we went ahead and added a couple of other additional features as part of the release of this. One is we updated our sorts so that you could sort by any of your attribute values. So I can sort by the root cause, because there's a lot less use to data if it's kind of trapped, in this detail view that you got to click through to get to, right? If I can expose that information right up front through sorts, through filtering, that's going to be a lot more useful to me. So now I can print out a report of my issues log, sorted by the root cause, and then send that off or export it as a spreadsheet. Similarly, we added a new functionality to our search. Previously, our search only would search across what we now call major fields, right? The description, the priority, the discipline, and so forth. We made it so that now you can actually search within a specific attribute that you have connected, that you are using within the project and on the issues in your project. So for example, if I wanted to find all of the issues that have BAS as a root cause, I can select that root cause as my search scope, and then I can have whatever search term I want, in this case BAS, and have the list of issues that I'm seeing immediately filtered down to those that match that criteria. So again, it's not just about having it possible to add this additional data to the issues. It's about closing that loop so that that information becomes useful to you, is something that you can effectively leverage within the application, and that's not a big pain to actually get in there. And it all ultimately comes back to our tagline that we have is get in, get done, get home. And that's really what drives us, right? Is how can we make it so that you can do those things that you want to do and get that information in there and also out in the most fast and effective way possible. So that's issue attributes and issue presets. Now what I'd like to do is switch and talk about line types. So for this, I'm going to come back to my presentation and let's talk about line types. Now we've had checklist and test for a really long time in the application since the beginning, right? And we've been a commercial product for over 10 years now. So we've got a long history of this work behind us. We've always, of course, had checklists and test lines. What we realized, though, and what we put in place last year, at the tail end of last year, we rolled this out in October, was that there's a lot more that we could be doing with these questions that we're asking. There's more purposes that these lines can fulfill, right? So lines with a purpose, right? Because ultimately, this concept is that every line of a checklist or test is given a type, and that type defines its purpose. It's why is it here? What are we looking for? What must be provided? What must be answered, or what is required by the person that's filling it out to have that line be considered passed? And we've always had the ability to upload files for many, many years. You've been able to upload files to any individual line. But previously, there wasn't a mechanism to require a file to be uploaded, for example. Line types makes that possible because now every line can have sort of an explicit definition of what the requirement there is to actually have it be marked as passed. So here's just a very simple example that was made possible with line types. This one that I'm showing on screen is our single value line type, meaning in order to complete it, you must pick one of the values that you provide in that dropdown. So let's look a little bit at what these line types are. So when we first rolled this out in October, we had 5, and as of today, we have 5 line types that are available. And you can see I've got them listed. I also have a little sample of each one. There's a header and information lines. Those don't actually need to be answered, right? Those are just informational, both of them, and give some visual structure and instructions for your checklist and test. Then we have our standard question, where ultimately the answers are yes, no, NA, or pass, failed, NA, or some equivalent of that. You can customize the labels. That's a new feature in our line types release. For example, you could have the label be submitted or not submitted if you wanted. Then the single value I mentioned, where you actually predefine a set of options for them to select from. And then finally, our attribute line type, where you're requesting a specific piece of data that you would like to attach to the equipment that this checklist is based on. That really common use case for attribute line types is to request the recording of manufacturer and model number and serial number, any of that nameplate data, so that that data not only goes into the answer of that checklist line, but actually also updates the related equipment. Now that's the view. I just changed the slide here. The prior view is the view that you get when you are editing these checklist line types. But when you're answering them, it would look like this, right? So again, header and information lines are just there for informational purposes, but the other line types are ready to be answered, and the control to actually answer it is going to differ based off of the type of the line that it is. As you can see, right? So we have just a simple sort of button switch, submitted, not submitted for that standard question. We have our drop down for our single value, and then we have a special custom interface for attribute lines, as you see there. Now, what do we have coming up? We're actively working right now on a what we internally are calling a volume 2 of line types. That's going to be rolled out over the next couple months. And this is going to incorporate 5 additional line types that we think are going to be really, really great. So multiple value, this is a set of options, but you can select more than one. File, require them to upload a file. A text input, where you're just like, I just need you to type in a value, right? The signature line type, to require a, quote unquote wet signature. It's all digital, right? But we actually draw on the page with your finger or on the screen or with your mouse cursor. And then one that many of our customers are excited about, our most requested feature, is a table line type, to allow the answer to a line to be actually a table of data. So let me go in a little more on each of these. First of all, the multiple value. So you can see what that looks like. Essentially, you predefine a set of options, and then the user that's answering it selects all that apply. Now, the file line type. In this case, you have options. When you go to answer this line, you are prompted to choose a file, and you can either choose one that has already been uploaded to this line. As I mentioned before, we've long supported the ability of checklist and test lines to have files uploaded to them. If you've already uploaded the file to a line, you can just select it from the list, or as is probably going to be the more common scenario, is you upload it at that time as part of answering it. But either one is possible, right? We'll present to you the list of existing lines that you can select from, or you can upload a new one as you go. And then finally, text input, quite simple, right? You get a text input on the screen and you type in your answer, whatever it might be. And there you go. Now, the signature is well on its way. I don't have screenshots of it right now for that. So we're going to jump right to looking at the table line type. Now, this is the one that folks are, like I said, quite excited about. And we've got some really excellent plans, in my opinion, for how we're going to be implementing this. When you go to answer a table line type, you will be asked to fill out a table. That table can either be entirely predefined by you as part of the setup of the checklist or test, or it can be totally customizable by the user. So it can either be a blank slate where the user defines the table itself, or it can be completely predefined by you, and all they have to do is fill out the actual cells that you're asking for. That's indicated here in this screenshot by this concept of those locks on the header row and the header column, where that's going to block both those cells themselves of the header row and column from being edited, but actually is to prevent modification of the table itself. And in addition, so we kind of have those two endpoints. We're also going to offer, because we see these types of scenarios really commonly, right? Like a time-based interval recording of values. So one of the options that's going to be available is to define what a row looks like or what a column looks like. And then the user filling it out can just add additional columns or add additional rows, but they can't actually change the structure of the row. So for example, you might define your column with all the information you're looking for, and then leave the row open, and they just add as many they add as many additional columns as necessary to capture the time intervals that they execute, right? So it might be 5 or it might be 10 or whatever it is. So we really think there's going to be a lot of sort of commissioning specific interface and control that we can put in place with this table line type. We're quite excited about it. This is going to be something that's available both on the web and in our iOS app, and are looking forward to having this out to you again in the first half of this year. One more thing I'll mention about this, because it's something that when we've shown this to customers, they brought up all the time, is what about if I have it in Excel and I want to copy and paste? So we've worked hard to allow copying and pasting from a spreadsheet into the table here in CX Alloy. So you'll either be able to paste the actual values into the cells, or if the table is set up in such a way that you're allowed to edit it freely, you can actually replace the entire structure of the table, right? The rows and the columns, the whole setup, and all the values, of course, within, with cells or content that you've copied from Excel. So that's a piece that'll be in there as well, and are pretty happy with how that's turning out right now. So that's our line types. Now, I want to kind of circle back around to what I was mentioning with attributes. Is it's not enough, in our opinion, just to put this functionality out there. It needs to work within the ecosystem of what the application itself makes possible. So one of the features that we have in our system is push changes. Push changes allows you to take your templates that you've used to create your checklist and test and modify it, add additional lines, remove lines, change what the actual question is and so forth, and then push that change to all of the equipment, or all of the checklists that you've created from it. So if I, for example, were to go and look at one of my very simple checklists that I currently have in this project, this one comes from a template. If I come over here to the template, I can go and I can add another question, right? This is a second question. And I can do that, and I could, edit this and say, this is the first question. When I make these changes, if I want these changes to apply to any of my existing checklists, I can do that through this push changes feature. And this will look at all the checklists that I've created from this template, and it will apply those changes to the template or to those checklists that I created from it. So for example, I'll go ahead and hit push template changes. And then if I go back and I click back into that checklist, you'll see that it's been updated with the additional second line and the edit to the question of the first line. One of the things that's really valuable about this that you'll notice is it does not have to clear out the answers. So if you just need to fix a typo or you just need to insert a line, halfway in between, you can do that. It does not need to alter any of the existing work that's been done in that checklist for you to be able to, apply these changes very quickly. And of course, this is all works with our new line types feature. So as we roll out these additional line types, as you start introducing those line types into your templates, you'll be able to push those changes to your checklist if you want, or if you want to take your existing templates and change some of the questions to be of this specific type. Maybe you already have lines that are asking for files to be uploaded, and you want to change them to be explicitly the file line type to require that file to be uploaded. You'll be able to make that change on the template and then push it to your existing checklist, and they will be updated with that change, just like that. So that's just one little insight into how we try to make sure that, as I mentioned with attributes, it's really about rolling out features that are holistically beneficial to the platform, that are not just sort of one-off things that you can do on the side, but are really directly integrated to all the existing functionality that we offer and continue to build on each other. All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I want to call your attention to, because we only have 30 minutes today, so it's a pretty abbreviated presentation. We are having on February 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern, our monthly office hours. This one, though, is a little bit special, where it's going to be an expanded version of what we talked about here. And in particular, what we're going to spend more time on is looking at the roadmap for 2023. So not only are we going to look at these upcoming line types like I've touched on here today, but we're also going to talk about some other enhancements that we're working on, including the ability to have the application in other languages, some of the data security enhancements, and perhaps the most important one, and the one that's our biggest focus for 2023, is the addition of milestones. And we're going to go into more depth on milestones at that office hours on February 7th. But they're quite exciting. It's about being able to define custom goals within the application that you can then track the progress towards with dates and Excel outputs, and as well as presentations of that information directly in the application as well. So we're going to be going through all of that. The office hours, if you're interested to attend that one, if you go to www.cxla.com/roadmap, that's where you can get a little bit of the information and also register to actually attend if that's something that interests you. So thanks for the time today. As was mentioned, if you do have questions, you can reach out to us. You can just email, I'm just Jacob, Jacob @cxla.com. Or you can email our support team, support@cxla.com, with any questions you might have, or bring them to the office hours on the February 7th, and we will have a Q&A session during that presentation, and we'd be happy to answer any of those questions there as well. So thanks again for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jacob. We really appreciate your time and expertise. And on behalf of the BCA, I'd like to thank everyone for your participation in today's presentation. Have a great day.
Thanks.